YouTube, what is going on? Welcome back to another Identity 5 video. Today we have Season 18 Hunter tier list. So this is the inclusion of the two new hunters that have been added, Nightmare and Wax Artist. They will both be in this tier list, so watch out for that. Before we get into the video, just a quick reminder, if you guys haven't already done so, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. 70% of the guys, of you guys who watch these videos are not currently subscribed, so if you're enjoying the video, just don't forget to subscribe. That's totally awesome. Appreciate it. But yeah, anyways, let's get into the tier list. So we're going to talk about the 5 tiers we have today: C tier, B tier, A-, A, and S tier. And I'm going to quickly go through what each tier means because I don't usually do that, which I should probably be doing anyways. But the first tier is C tier. And C tier are basically, when you look at a tournament, you have round 1 hunters, round 2 hunters, round 3 hunters, and then also like 4 and 5. You can also look at hunters, how good they are in rank and stuff. C tier hunters are pretty much just unviable. They're not good in tournaments whatsoever in any rounds, and they're not very good in rank either. You're probably not going to be winning as much with these characters as you could be, especially in high tiers. Maybe in lower tiers, maybe in mid tiers, it works fine. But once you get to the high tiers like Dragon tier, Titan, Hydra tier, it's a lot harder to win with these hunters, almost impossible. The next tier is B tier. These hunters are not bad. They're fine in rank, and they're also viable like in a best of 5 situation in a tournament, maybe like rounds 4 or 5. A- tier are good third round hunters, also good in rank. A tier is good, very good viable hunters for pretty much anything in any situation, whether it's rank, whether it's tournament. And S tier are the best hunters in the game. So let's get into the first tier, which is C tier. And the first hunter in C tier is the newest hunter, Nightmare, or also known as, I guess, Orpheus, because I think it's Orpheus or something else with the lore. I don't know the lore very well, so my bad. I gotta pay more attention to the lore. But anyways, the first hunter is Nightmare, and Nightmare, guys, unfortunately, is very, very weak. His chase against a survivor who knows how to kite him is incredibly weak. And the reason why is because not only does it take him a while to kind of like get that vision without full presence. With a full presence, you can get it in like a second. But it takes a while of staring at the survivor to get that vision on them. And the survivor constantly breaks line of sight, going behind windows, going behind walls or whatever it may be. It's very hard to get that vision on the survivor and dash after them. On top of that, his dash is very short. And after you dash, if you don't hit a survivor, then you kind of stand still for a second before you can move again. And it just wastes a lot of time. And the survivor gets to create distance. It's not very strong. The one thing that's good about him is it's very hard to body block him because his hit kind of targets one survivor specifically, so you can kind of curve around survivors in a way and get a hit. It's weird, but that's a pretty cool thing about him. But besides that, he kind of just gets kited a lot in the early game again. Even once you get that vision on the survivor, if you break line of sight, you have a wall between you and the hunter, you have a pallet between you, a window between you and the hunter. They literally cannot do anything. It's not like a Percy or a Geisha, where Geisha can like dash through the pallet, dash through the window, or a Percy which can use that ability to jump over those things. Nightmare cannot do any of that. He has to vault the window, he has to break the pallet, and that's incredibly weak, unfortunately. On top of that, his ability where you can throw crows around the map and then teleport on the crows, it's pretty nice. It's actually a pretty cool ability, but the only downside is that it's a 50-second cooldown. It's an incredibly long cooldown. So in comparison to Wu Chang's Umbrella, which is 30 seconds, his cooldown is way longer, and it takes a long time to get that back online. So it's really just, in the long run, not really worth it. It does give him some map control, which is nice, but in reality, it's just not quite as good. So that's kind of the downside. Is it 80 seconds? I'm pretty sure it's 50. But either way, if it was 50 or above, it's just way too long of a cooldown to be viable. Of course, the crow can go on a survivor, can go on the cipher, and it can reveal that the survivor's there. So it's sort of like a peeper that you can use from across the map, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty fun ability. It's a pretty cool ability. But even if you do teleport on the survivor, as long as they're near a pallet or window, they're gone. You're not going to catch them. It's incredibly hard to catch them because, again, his chase is just so weak. So he's just he's kind of a slow hunter too. He's not very fast. He's just a very weak hunter overall, unfortunately. Not very good chase in the early game. No camping abilities whatsoever. Pretty good map pressure, but besides that, that's all he has to work with. That is why he's a C tier hunter. The next hunter in C tier is Percy. Now Percy has not changed at all really since last season. Again, the biggest downside to Percy is he can't chair people. So even if Percy has good chasing abilities, you guys may be like, oh my god, I can't kite Percy, he's so hard to kite. Well, he is actually, fairly difficult to kite because he can break those pallets instantly with that swing ability. You can just swing at him and they break. He can dash at you to cut off your transition kiting. He can not get pallets done if he's in the swing animation. So he's kind of counters tight kiting and transition kiting at the same time. But the biggest downside is he can't chair people. So even if you die really quickly to a Percy, Percy, you'll probably still end up losing the game as the Percy just because the survivors can literally they can crawl out the execute if they want. They can crawl to the dungeon if they want in the end game. If you get a situation where a survivor's eliminated, and you're like, oh, okay, well now 3 survivors are left. They're about to pop the last survivor. Probably gonna be a draw, right? I'll just kill someone with attention. No, that's not how it works with Percy, because you can just die on top of dungeon, or you can crawl out the exit gate, and there's nothing the Percy can do. And on top of that, it takes survivors way longer to die through bleeding out than it does through being on the rocket chair. Now, the one issue, sorry, not the one issue, but I know that Percy, the one issue for survivors is that Percy does make survivors bleed out quicker. That's kind of an ability that he does have to work with. But other than that, it's just like that doesn't really do anything. Because it's still going to be slower than a rocket chair. On top of that, the survivors have increased crawling speed when down by a Percy. And they can also continue to do Cypher Rush, because if the Percy downs someone, they don't need anyone to go for a rescue. You can just self-heal if you need to. I mean, you can also heal the survivor. We can also just self-heal, and that also works. So because of these reasons, Percy does have good anti-kiting abilities. He has good chase. He can prevent kiting, prevent transition kiting, but not much. Doesn't really have any Cypher pressure. Doesn't need camping because he doesn't share survivors. Because he can't share survivors, that makes him pretty weak, and because of that, he's a C tier hunter and pretty much unviable. The next hunter in C tier is Hell Ember. Now, wow, Ember's not the worst hunter in the game, guys. Look at that. It's gotten a little bit better. So Ember is not a great hunter, and the reason why is because his early game chase is very weak. He gets kited very hard in the early game. He gets rotated very hard in the early game. For those of you who don't know, rotation is essentially where if you know where the hunter spawns, like for example, let's just say you have like a seer, right, on your team. The seer can see the survivor. The hunter is going towards them. Instead of staying on the Cypher, the seer is going to rotate. They're going to run away from the survivor, the Cypher, make distance, and as long as the team keeps communicating where the hunter's going, the hunter can never really find anyone. That's the power of 4-person VC. But against a Hell Ember, that's very good because he doesn't really have that kind of map pressure in the early game. He does not have those puppets in the early game. He relies on Blink and he relies on Insolence to get down in the early game because his chase is so bad. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, his pallet breaking speed is very slow, and he doesn't have a very good hitbox or anything like that. He's just so weak because of these things. All you have to do is pallet spam a Percy. Just drop every pallet you run across, and the Percy, sorry, not the Percy, the Hell Ember has to break them, and you just keep creating distance as the survivor. You keep transition kiting, keep getting away, and there's nothing the Hell Ember can do, and you'll just get kited from 3 ciphers by a decent survivor. Even a not so good survivor can 3 cipher kite a Percy, no problem. Now, when you're going against a Percy to survive, you want to make sure you don't camp pallets. If you're camping pallets and going for pallet stuns, that means the Percy gets extra flames, which means he actually can kill you quicker, because once he gets those flames, he can create the phantoms, the fire phantoms, which can be used to kind of trap in a survivor. Possibly in some areas. So you gotta make sure you just drop the pallets instantly. Make the Ember break the pallet, and you're just gonna win the game because it takes so long to break pallets and catch up to you. So because of these things, Ember has really bad chase in the early game. He does have good camping, because you can use those flames to create a phantom. You sort of have 2 hunters camping at the same time, and you can kind of double hit a rescuer quick, like boom, boom, back to back, which is pretty nice. So he has good camping, and he has pretty good pressure once he has presence. Once he has those puppets, he can throw them around the map and catch up to survivors. But his overall chase is just so ridiculously bad. He is just a C tier hunter. The next hunter in C tier is Clown, Smiley Face, Joker, what do you want to call him? Clown has been, when he first came out way back at the beginning of all the seasons or whatever he came out, he was actually S tier. He was a really good hunter. But over time, he's kind of just whittled down to be C tier. More and more survivors have came out that counter him. And he just kind of is too slow. In comparison to the rest of the hunters in this game, he's too slow to get set up with his abilities. Essentially, as a Clown, when you spawn into the map, you have to walk to the closest Cypher machine, because that's where all the parts spawn, the parts that the Clown can pick up. You can put on the infinite propeller dash. You can put on the Wild Wings, which gives him increased dashing speed. The modified drill, not quite as effective. You don't necessarily need that, but you can use that. And it just takes a long time to put on those parts. And then after the Clown starts dashing around the map, if the survivors get to an area like with a good pallet or a good window, the Clown can't do anything. They have to like literally leave them or just stop their dash, break the pallet, or stop their dash, fall off the window. And there's just nothing the Smiley Face can do. So yeah, that's the biggest issue with Clown, is he just he takes very long to get set up in the early game. His chase is just not that good. He requires incredibly good controls to maneuver. And if you're going against a survivor that counters him, like Priestess, even Magician counters him because they'll just hit the illusion, they die out. Entomologist counters him. If you run into those bees, it'll just stop the dash. Yeah, it's rough. There's just a lot of the meta characters just kind of counter him, and you know, that's the biggest downside to him, is that he just gets countered by these meta characters. So I think that Clown does have good map pressure. Once you have full presence, you can put on those infinite drills and dash around the map very quickly. But why not at this point just play Breaking Wheel? Breaking Wheel can immediately get into wheel form every 7 seconds and just go anywhere he wants on the map. Whereas Clown has to put on the parts, wait for his 10-second cooldown of the dash, and then go dash around the map, which is just nowhere nearly as strong. So because of these things, Clown is C tier. His camping is also very luck based. He relies usually on going for terror shocks. What you can do is you can cut off a rescuer from a distance, hit them with a basic hit, and then try to dash them and hit them and dash them down before they reach the chair. But if you don't cut them off from far enough away, they're just gonna make it to the chair and get the rescue anyway. So it's kind of pointless. So if you go for the terror shock with the dashes Clown, you know, that's fun to try, but that's so luck based that it's just not worth it to play Clown at that point. Luck-based characters are never really good. You really want hunters that are consistent, have good consistent abilities, and that can consistently get you draws and wins as a hunter. And Clown just does not have that, and that is why he is a C-tier hunter. The next hunter in C-tier is one of the newer ones, and that is the Wax Artist. Now, some of you may not 100% agree with me on this, but I do think that Wax Artist is not very good. I've talked with a few people about this. A few top-tier hunters as well, and they all think Wax Artist is really, really bad. And the reason why Wax Artist is really, really bad is that, well, for one, his chase is kind of decent if you have good, like, aim with the wax, but even then, it's just, like, he just gets kited by survivors that can just, like, transition. Like, it's just, like, let's take Priestess, for example. You just have to, again, break line of sight, get behind windows, get behind walls where the Wax Artist can't get you. They can shoot their windows. If you get behind walls and just can constantly break line of sight, the Wax Artist really can't do anything. And survivors like Priestess, if it's starting to build up wax and you're caught in the open, just portal away. And it's just like, okay, well, there goes, you know, my entire ability. It's like, that kind of sucks. Or you know, other characters like Patient can just hook away, make distance between the Wax Artist, get out of wax range for a little bit. Characters like Psychologist force the Wax Artist to hit them 3 times. You have to get them to 103 times and get 3 hits on them all 3 of those times to actually get the down on the Psychologist. That is just so weak. At that point, why would you not just play, like, I don't know, Ann? Ann can just cat them 3 times with a 10-second cooldown, whereas Wax Artist does the same thing as Ann, except he's just can dodge the wax way easier than the cats. So you see what I'm saying? It's just not as strong. Yeah, Wax Artist chase is not very good. His camp is almost non-existent as well. His camp is really bad. Another thing about his chase is he can block off windows. You can wax those windows, which will block them off. But it's just like, well, as long as the survivors are, the Wax Artist has to stop, turn around, and do that. He can do it while walking away, like if it's a looping area, but it's just not. It just wastes too much time. It's just not that strong. So, yeah, because of that, Wax Artist is so like one-dimensional. He's so straightforward. It's just like wax the survivor, GG. You know. On top of that, again, his camping is not good. If he's shooting wax at the survivor, just save. If he's not shooting, then just take the hit and make the rescue. He can't get you to 100. If you go up to the chair and the Wax Artist is there shooting wax at you, it's just like, just save them. He can't get you 100 in time. Just save them, make the rescue easily. You know, easily done. He also has no map pressure at all. He's a very slow hunter, has no map pressure. He can wax off cipher machines to slow down decoding, but it only lasts for a few seconds, and it's also wasting the Wax Artist's time if he's doing that, which means more time for decoding. He's just such a weak hunter, not very good chase, pretty much no strong camping in reality, and his cipher pressure is not very strong compared to other hunters. He's just weak in all 3 of the categories that make him a good hunter, and because of these reasons, he is a C-tier hunter. The next hunter in C tier is Evil Reptilian, Lucino. Evil Reptilian has always kind of been around C tier. He's never really been good. The biggest reason why is his early game chase is just incredibly weak. Again, you're going to notice a lot of these lower hunters, like in the C tier and some in the B tier range as well, they just don't have good chasing abilities. And that's what makes them very weak. So again, you look at Lucino, Evil Reptilian. And Evil Reptilian's chase is just very weak in the early game before he has presence. His hitbox is very small. His jump literally just gets hard countered by... Okay, well, here's the thing. His jump gets hard countered by Priestess because if you get to a pallet, throw the pallet down, you see him jump, just portal. It's risky to revault because if he drops down and then he swings, he might get a Terror Shock. If he drops down, just portal back through the pallet or whatever. Something simple, literally simple as that. I mean, maybe there's better places to portal, but that's a simple example. He jumps, portal back through. He has to go through, get stunned, then you revault the pallet again, get a speed boost, you're gone. And he just wastes his jump. Like, his jump is so easy to avoid when he doesn't have that lethal crash ability. So, you know, his chase is just so bad without his presence. In the early game, he gets kited really, really hard. His map pressure is okay in that he can jump around. Once he has full presence, he can do 3 jumps. So you can get around the map quickly, but that's about it. A lot of Reptilians actually carry peepers, so they can like jump to a Cypher machine, drop a peeper on it, force the survivor to remove the peeper before they go back to decoding, which slows down the Cypher rush because the peepers do slow down decoding, and then you kind of just jump back to the chair and keep camping. So that's not a bad thing that you can do with Blizzard, with Evil Reptilian, but besides that, if you're bringing peepers, it means you don't have blink, which means you're getting kited even more in the early game because, again, his early game chase is just not good. His camping is actually pretty good. He does have pretty good camping. It's hard to avoid that lethal crash ability. The circle radius is just so large, but you can kind of bait it. It's sort of like a Geisha when she jumps up in the air and kind of hovers and goes for that drop down hit. You can sort of do the same thing with Lizard, where you just like you go in, bait like you're gonna rescue, and then just kind of double back away, and then they drop down, do the ability. But you can also just go straight for the rescue as well if you're worried about getting stuffed. You might get double hit, but you still get the save. You can go in for the save. He goes for the jump, does the crash ability, and you save quickly. And you can usually get the save off of you sometimes. I think it depends actually, but it's just so hard for a Lizard to win because his chase is so bad. His map pressure is kind of non-existent. Again, his camping isn't bad. Another thing you can do as Evil Reptilian is if you cut off the rescuer from a distance, you can hit them and then jump to the chair and then just kind of cut them off before they reach. If you hit them from a distance, you cut them off and then just jump to the chair to prevent the rescue that way. That also works, but yeah, besides that, again, Reptilians are just not that strong. No chase pretty much in the early game. Not much pressure at all. Pretty good camp, but that's about it. And because of that, he's a C tier hunter. I need some water. I'm already talking a lot, and we just kind of started. Okay, the next hunter in C tier. I got my Dasani water. Don't they put salt in Dasani to make you more like dehydrated so you'll buy more of their water? I don't know. Anyways, the next hunter in C tier is Ripper. Jack the Ripper. Last hunter in C tier. Ripper is kind of... Ripper's a very fragile hunter. He's kind of very inconsistent. And that, again, we talk about hunters that are really viable, the consistent hunters. Ripper is very inconsistent. The reason why is if you miss a Foggy Blade... if you miss your first Foggy Blade, you're already tying the match because it's 20 seconds before you can get another hit. His hitbox is so ridiculously bad that you're not going to be able to get a regular hit with the against good survivors. You have to get Foggy Blade hits. You're not going to be able to get a regular hit because his hitbox is so bad. So then if you miss your second Foggy Blade, you're probably just going to lose the game because at that point you'll probably the survivor will get a Seer Owl for the third Foggy Blade, and then the fourth one they take a regular hit, and then the fifth one they go down. But at that point, it's already a 3 Cypher Kite, and you've lost the game as the Ripper. So Ripper is just kind of, you have to hit, if you want to actually get a win with Ripper, you pretty much have to hit every Foggy Blade in the early game. If you want to get a draw, maybe you can afford to miss one, that's about it. And if you want to also win the game, you have to be able to stuff someone pretty much as a Ripper or get a double hit. So example, you see a rescuer coming from a distance, you hit them with a Foggy Blade, no attack recovery, and then you get a basic hit follow up to stuff a rescue. Or if it's a mercenary, you can double hit them and they go down after Tide runs out and they can't decode, which slows down the Cypher Rush. So that's kind of a decent thing you can do with the Ripper. But if you miss your Foggy Blades in the early game, you will lose the game. Ripper's just that bad. You get Cypher Rush so hard. His camping is okay, but it's not quite as strong as some other campers. And yeah, because of these things, Ripper is just very weak. Once he has presence, he has good chase because he's very fast and he's invisible, so it makes him hard to kite. But until then, he just gets kited again. He gets kited in the early game. His camping is not quite as strong. Also, he kind of gets countered by windows and pallets. If he's invisible, just throw down a pallet. And he has to break it and he loses his invisibility. Or he has to bolt the window, loses his invisibility. That's just so weak for a Ripper player. And that's kind of the biggest problem. Again, not real map pressure. A lot of Rippers will bring peepers. And what that'll do is essentially... Ripper is very fast once he has presence. He's invisible. So you can share someone. You can race over to a Cypher, drop a peeper, and then race back to the chair. That's not bad, but Besides that, there's not much the Ripper can do for Cypher Pressure, so because of that, he's a C tier hunter. He is the best hunter in C tier, but he is C tier nonetheless. Okay, moving on to the next tier, which is B tier. The first hunter in B tier is Gamekeeper. Now, some of you may disagree. You guys may be like, oh my god, Gamekeeper is so impossible to kite. I can't kite Gamekeeper. The hook hitbox is ridiculously large. And yes, it is. The hook hitbox is very annoying. However, guys, the biggest issue with Gamekeeper is that his map pressure is very weak. Yes, he has good chase. It is hard. It is actually difficult to kite a Gamekeeper, guys. I will be honest with you. Sometimes I play Gamekeeper for fun because his chase is so fun and it can be very strong in some instances. But his Cypher pressure is incredibly weak. He has no Cypher pressure, no map pressure whatsoever at all. So again, Gamekeeper has good chase in that the hook hitbox is so large, and he can also set up those traps to block off kiting routes. He can put them in pallets. He can put them at windows to block off the survivors from kiting through strong areas, which can be very good as Gamekeeper. But besides that, he doesn't really have camping. He does have some fun abilities you can do with camping, where if the survivor comes in late for the rescue, you can pull them back. You can hook them, pull them really far away from the chair, and they can't make the save. And that's not bad, considering that Gamekeeper doesn't really have map pressure. But a good survivor will know to go in for the rescue early off a Gamekeeper and sort of like just be able to get that save and not fall into that sort of trap that the Gamekeeper might try to go for. So yeah, that's the biggest issue with Gamekeeper, is that his camping isn't quite as good as some other camping hunters. He is also luck-based. You can go for the Terror Shock with the hook as Gamekeeper, like Terror Shock on the chair. But again, that's another luck-based ability we talk about. It's inconsistent. It doesn't always work. Like Clown's ability doesn't always work. It's not as consistent camping. So he has inconsistent camping. He has good chase, inconsistent camping, and no Cypher pressure whatsoever. And because of these things, he is a C tier hunter. Not much else to say. Sorry, a B tier hunter rather. The lowest hunter in B tier. Not much else to say about Gamekeeper. The next hunter in B tier is Mad Eyes. Now, Mad Eyes used to be very strong, but he got nerfed, and on top of that, he also just kind of gets countered by a lot of survivors. Like, if you know it's going to be a Mad Eyes, you literally can just play anti-Mad Eyes characters and just win the game. And the reason why is it's just kind of like Mad Eyes gets countered by really weird characters. Like, it's countered by Enchantress, he gets countered by Seer, he gets countered by Priestess, he gets countered by Prospector, Forward, Batter, Wildling. It's the reason why is because if there's any character that can sort of like push the Mad Eyes off of his console, then you're in a really bad position. Like Enchantress can just Doctor's another one. Enchantress can just stun she can farm stuns and just stun the Mad Eyes off the console over and over, and he can't harass Cyphers. Seer can go stack owls against the Mad Eyes. He can go up to the Mad Eyes and just farm owls off him the whole game. Wildling can just push the Mad Eyes off of the console. Batter can push him off the console. Prospector can stun him off the console. Forward can stun him off the console. There's just so many characters that just counter Mad Eyes. Priestess can portal through the fences. So it's just like there's just so many characters that just counter Mad Eyes. So that's the biggest downside to him. Mad Eyes doesn't have any chase at all. His chase is ridiculously bad. He has no chasing abilities. But he can technically use the fences to block off kiting routes, which is nice. Mad Eyes does have incredibly weird but strong camp. He can block off the rescuers from coming in with the fences. You can put up those fences, prevent the rescuer from reaching the chair altogether. Unless it's a Priestess. This is another thing, right? If you don't ban Priestess as Mad Eyes, you're probably going to lose because Priestess can just save Mad Eyes so easily. They can just portal through and just make the rescue. But if you do get the survivor in a good chair for Mad Eyes, you can use those fences to prevent any rescuer from even getting close enough to the chair to rescue, which is pretty nice. But the biggest issue is the survivors can just waste all the energy on all the consoles, and then they can just kill that Cypher after they waste all the energy. As long as no one goes down early to a Mad Eyes by giving away free hits, you're just going to win the game as the survivors. It's that easily. And if it's in a tournament and the survivors know it's going to be a Mad Eyes, they can just play anti-Mad Eyes characters and just win that way. So, yeah, because of these things, Mad Eyes is just B tier. Again, no chase, but he does have the fences that he can use for camping, which is strong. He does have very good map pressure in that. Again, you can pressure those Cypher machines with the fences, but again, if the survivors just waste the energy on the consoles, then there goes your map pressure. So that's kind of an issue with Mad Eyes, and that's why he's just a kind of B tier hunter. The next hunter in B tier is Photographer. Now, Photographer Everybody loves Photographer, I know, but unfortunately, Joseph the Photographer, not a very strong hunter. Incredibly luck-based. He is one of the most inconsistent hunters in the game. He's not bad. If you get a good start with him, he can be very strong. But he's so inconsistent. If you don't find survivors hiding in there, even you guys can just argue, oh, we'll just memorize spawns. Well, you can memorize spawns, but if the survivors get a good hiding spot and you spend the entire first photo world looking for that one survivor, and if maybe you find them at the end and get a free chip hit on them, okay, that's nice. But you're still gonna lose the game. One chip hit's not gonna win you a match. So that's the biggest issue with photo is it's just like it's so luck based. You really need, if you want to win the game as photo, you pretty much have to find at least 3 survivors in your first photo world. If you don't find at least 3 survivors in your photo world, you're probably not winning the game. You're probably not even tying. You'll probably end up losing. The biggest issue with Photographer is his chase is just so bad. His chase is incredibly weak. Essentially, the strategy with him is, you chip someone in the photo world and then you blink them to get the kill, right? You chip someone in the photo world, you hit them in the photo world, you make them one shot, 2 photo because he has that extra damage, and then you blink them and get the kill that way. But then the issue is, what happens when they get rescued? Then they just get rebound. You just get rebound kited. They rescue the survivor on chair, they kite away, and you lose the game because you don't have blink anymore and you can't get them down, and they just kite you for the rest of the game. And you're forced to change targets. And, there's the argument, well, if you take a photo world and the survivor's on chair, there's the photo image. Well, if the rest of you are smart, they'll just go save the photo image. It's just like, okay, well, there goes your strategy. Sorry. So that's the biggest issue with photo, is that his chase is just so incredibly bad. He doesn't have any... he also has no camping whatsoever, other than, the photo, taking a photo, forcing the survivor to save a photo world, but that doesn't do anything because it's pretty easy to do anyways. He doesn't really have map pressure, but he does have anti-cipher rush, in that once the photo world collapses, if the ciphers are not completed, then all those ciphers will lose progress that have progress on them already, which is nice. He's pretty anti-cipher rush, but he is so inconsistent, incredibly luck-based, and just gets kited for eternity because his chase is so bad and his camping is just so bad. So, again, because of these things, photo is not bad. He can make survivors one shot in the photo world, which is a pretty fun ability. You can kill survivors and down them in the photo world, and then make them die in the real world, which is also a pretty fun ability, pretty unique. But the problem is he just gets kited because his chase is so bad. And against a team with 4-person voice communication, they can simply tell the survivors where the photographer is going. So if you're down in the photo world and they put them in the rocket chair, you can just say, oh, he's going to chair him near Shack. Well, okay, I'll just die on the other side of the map. And it's just like, okay, well, now the photo can't find the down person. It's sucks for them, I guess. So while photo may be good at slowing down Cypher Rush, his chase is bad, his camp is bad, and that's what makes him a B tier hunter. The next hunter in B tier is Wu Chang. Now, Wu Chang has always kind of been strong, but recently hunters, again, like Breaking Wheel is just a better version of Wu Chang. Wu Chang just sort of has fallen down. He's not really viable in tournaments because he, again, gets countered by voice communication. Because essentially, if the Wu Chang is teleporting with that umbrella, the survivors can just say, oh, he's teleporting, everyone watch out. And then everyone can just go hide in a pallet, hide near a window. If the Wu Chang teleports on them, they can just kite away because they have a pallet or something to work with, right? And you can't get the jump scare hit. A big part of Wu Chang is having that jump scare factor. You can teleport on the survivor, get a jump scare hit on them, and then sort of put yourself in a position where, oh, you have a free hit, now I just have to get one more hit at some point. Because his chase early game is really bad, guys. Wu Chang's early game chase is really bad. He has nothing to kind of chase with. I'm sure you have a really big hitbox with the white form, and you have fast pallet breaking speed with black form, but the black form hitbox is so bad, and the white form pallet breaking speed is so slow. So it's kind of a trade-off on the different forms. So yeah, Wu Chang relies heavily on getting that jump scare hit. If the survivors know it's a Wu Chang, they can communicate when he's teleporting, and or when I say teleporting, using that umbrella, they can get off the Cypher machine and just kind of avoid getting jump scared altogether. Now, Wu Chang, once he has presence, his chase is not bad. You have that Bell ability, which can stop the survivor in their tracks, knock them down. You can get a free hit on them. And also Soul Siphon ability, which can be used to catch up to survivors, which is pretty nice. His camping isn't bad in that if you cut off the rescuer from a distance, get a hit on them, and then teleport back to chair, you can prevent rescues that way, but you do have to cut them off from a distance for that to work. Also, if you're in white form, you can kind of you can Soul Siphon and prevent them from getting that save. But if it's a rescue character, they're probably going to make it anyways. For example, Mercenary can just elbow pad away, Patient can hook away and not get Soul Siphon to avoid the Soul Siphon, Gamekeeper can shovel. You know, all these rescue characters can kind of just avoid getting Soul Siphoned. So that's kind of the issue. Also with Black Form has very fast attack recovery, so you can kind of hit the survivor from a distance to cut them off, and then just like bell after them before they reach the chair, and then just stuff them that way. Use the bell ability. That's also nice. His camping isn't bad if you cut off the rescuer. If you don't cut off the rescuer, though, he doesn't have any camping abilities at that point once they get to the chair. So they'll just kind of make the rescue anyways. So that's kind of the biggest issue. Now, his map pressure is incredibly strong. He does have some of the best map pressure in the game because you can just, every 30 seconds, you can just umbrella pretty much anywhere on the map. If it's a small map, you can umbrella pretty much anywhere on the map. If it's a larger map like Moonlit or Lakeside, then it's harder to do that, but you can still get across the maps very quickly. So yeah, while Wu Chang has very good map pressure, his early game chase is very weak and he doesn't have much camping abilities. So because of that, he is a B tier survivor. He's not bad in ranked guys because you don't. If you're going against a ranked team that doesn't have 4-person VC, like if they're solo queuing or just playing duos or whatever, you're in a good spot as Wu Chang. But it's very risky because if you do play against a team that is 4-person VC, you're probably going to lose because they can constantly communicate when the Wu Chang is teleporting. And again, that's what makes him a B tier hunter. The next hunter in B tier is Feaster. Now, Feaster has kind of been... he used to be kind of A minus-ish tier, but recently Feaster, you know, he got nerfed a little while back, which kind of hurt him pretty bad. And on top of that, Feaster just gets kited by good survivors. It's very easy to kite a Feaster once you practice it a lot. I know, you know, a lot of you may say, oh, I don't know how to kite Feaster. I have trouble kiting Feaster. Well, once you practice and learn how to kite Feaster, then he's just so easy to kite. Because all you have to do is just loop the tentacle, and the Feaster throws it down, and they just miss the hit. And it's just like, okay, you can dodge. It's not like, let's say, Violinist and Feaster are very similar, but Violinist can actually just hit the notes on you. Whereas with Feaster, the tentacles are just so easy to dodge if you know how to dodge them properly by looping them or just getting out of range. So that's the biggest issue with Feaster, is that the tentacles are so easy to dodge. They also, he's so vulnerable in the early game. He can get kited so hard in the early game by good survivors. It's sad. It's just so sad. He does have a very good, his charge attack hitbox is incredibly long. His charge attack hitbox is the longest hitbox in the entire game. So that is pretty cool. His charge attack hitbox is, you can literally hit survivors from so far. It's ridiculous. I've literally hit Enchantress with my charge attack as Feaster to a point where they couldn't even stun because it was so far away that this stun wouldn't even register because it was too far away. But yeah, besides that, again, Feaster, his early game chase is not good because he's a very slow hunter. The tentacles are easy to dodge. He does have pretty good camping. You can use the tentacles to point to the location of the closest survivor. Even if there's a survivor on chair, it'll point to the survivor that's not on chair. So you can use that to cut off the rescuer from the distance, hit them, and then you go into attack recovery, and then you have a tentacle waiting on chair, so then you turn around. If the survivor didn't reach the chair before your attack recovery is done, you just throw it on the tentacle and stuff the rescue that way. So that's pretty strong. If you tap into tentacle survivor when they go for a rescue, that doesn't really work, because sure, you'll hit them with even if they don't dodge the tentacle and you hit them. Feaster has a 1-second animation after he throws down the tentacle where he cannot hit a survivor afterwards. For a full second. So then they can just make the rescue before he gets that animation over with, and they still make the rescue anyways. So his camping is not bad if you're able to cut off a rescuer from a distance. You can have the tentacle waiting for them on the chair. Once he reaches that full presence, he's actually not bad. He has that curse mark. Essentially what that does is if you curse mark a survivor for the next 20 seconds, any tentacle that they run near, you can tap the curse mark button and it'll just throw the tentacle down automatically. You don't have to see the tentacle. You don't have to be near the survivor. But if the survivor goes near the tentacle, it'll throw itself down essentially if you tap it as the Feaster, and you can hit them that way. So if the survivor's smart, you know as a survivor if you have a curse mark, it shows like a dark circle around you. So you know if you're curse marked. So as a survivor, you can kind of just like run by tentacles, and as long as you juke it, fake it, or you know, stay out of range of them, you just can't get hit by them. So good survivors will never get curse mark snipe. That's called curse mark snipe. If you get a curse mark snipe, good survivors will never get curse mark sniped like that. The biggest thing as a survivor you have to worry about is if you rescue someone with Tide Turner and then they curse mark you, when the Tide Turner runs out, a tentacle and the survivor goes down, a tentacle will spawn next to every survivor on the map. So it'll kind of just jump out of nowhere, and you have to be ready to dodge it because if you have that curse mark on you. But besides that, yeah, good survivors will never get sniped like that. And yeah, Feaster's just very weak in that he gets kited early game by survivors who know how to kite him. In lower to mid tiers, Feaster is very strong because a lot of survivors haven't figured out how to dodge the tentacles yet. But once you get to high tiers, especially high level in tournaments, good survivors will always know how to kite a Feaster. So that's kind of the downside. He just gets kited in the early game. His camping is pretty good, but he doesn't have any map pressure either because he's very slow. And yeah, again, it just does not get around the map very quickly. Doesn't have a lot of cipher control, and that's what makes him a B tier hunter. The next hunter in B tier is Violinist. Now, Violinist was, I think, A- tier last season, if I'm not mistaken, but right now, Violinist is just incredibly weak. The biggest problem with Violinist is that he also, like Feaster, gets kited not quite as hard as Feaster because it's harder to dodge the notes. A good Violinist can kind of like throw quick notes down and snipe survivors that way. But besides that, it's just like... it's as long as you constantly are juking around, it's very hard. The Violinist is it can be very luck based in hitting those notes. As long as survivors are constantly moving around and juking, they can juke the note pretty easily. What a lot of Violinists will do is they'll put a note inside the pallet and they'll try to string inside a pallet or inside a window, forcing the survivor to go around, and they can sometimes get a hit on them that way. But the problem is Violinist is a very slow hunter, so they can sometimes still get to the next pallet after, the next window after that, and that can be very hard for Violinists as well. That's why sometimes you'll see Violinists run Insolence. Once you have that first presence, you can throw those slowdown notes. I think it's called Rhapsody. You can throw at the survivors, and that'll slow them down, and you can catch up to them and get hits that way. So a lot of Violinists will bring Insolence to help them with their early game chase. And yeah, that's not a bad ability to have at all, but the problem is, like, if you're bringing Insolence, it means you have to either not bring Detention or not bring Trump Card, and that's kind of a big downside to Violinist. You really want to be able to bring Blink and Trump Card to teleport late game, or you want to bring Detention and be able to kill a survivor quickly in the end game. But if you're bringing Insolence, you're not able to bring one of those things, which is a big downside. So Violinist chase early game can be very weak. The strings hitbox is very thin, not very long. And he's kind of a slow hunter, so survivors can kind of transition kite him pretty easily. On top of that, his camping is okay, but it's not that strong. Again, as a survivor, just constantly juke around. You can dodge the note, force a basic hit, and get the rescue that way. And there's nothing the Violinist can really do after that. Once Violinist does reach full presence, though, he can be a bit harder to deal with. You can have that ability where you push out the note, that full presence ability, and that can be very hard to avoid. Although it is avoidable. As long as you go in between the lines, you can just avoid getting hit by that. It's not like you have to get out of range. You just have to go in between the lines. So that's kind of a problem. What a lot of Violinists will do with full presence is they'll throw a note and make the string next to the chair, and then when the survivor goes to the rescue, they'll push the full presence, and it'll hit both the person that got rescued and the rescuer, and then they'll just turn around and hit the rescuer as well. So you can kind of get 3 hits. You can down this person who just got rescued and then double hit the person that's saved. You won't be stuffing the rescue. They still get the save, but you can kind of hit all of them down at the same time, which is pretty cool. But besides that, yeah, the full presence is it's pretty hard to kite, and camping wise it's pretty good, but before he has presence, he just gets kited pretty hard, and his camping is not very strong without full presence. So because of these things, Violinist is one more thing, he can throw notes at the cipher machines while camping. He can throw those notes at the ciphers from across the map, maybe force the survivor off the cipher to slow down the cipher rush a little bit, but it's not too long overall. So because of that, his cipher control isn't the best. His map pressure is very weak, and that's what makes him a B tier hunter. All right, so moving on to our next tier, which is A- tier. We got 3 hunters in A- tier, and the first hunter in A- tier is Anne Disciple. Now, Disciple is actually a very strong hunter. I actually really like her in rank. I think she's actually a very good rank hunter. And the reason why is she's very good for securing draws, and she's also a hunter that has win potential and can kind of push for 3Ks. It's very hard to get a 4K with her, and in tournaments, you really want to try to push for as many kills as possible. She also struggles heavily against very good supporting teams. So if you're just individually chasing someone one-on-one with Anne, she's very good. She's a very good one-on-one character. Because it's hard to dodge cats, it's hard to kite out the cats. But when you have support, it's easy to kite out the cat. So for example, the Anne goes for a cat on someone, lands the cat on, like a seer, right? And the forward comes in for a stun, stuns the Anne, and the seer can kite out the cat. Or if there's a priestess portal set up, he goes to the portal, they can kite out the cat. Or if the entomologist beast comes in to support, they can kite out the cat. So the thing with Anne is she struggles against 4-person VC when the team is very good at supporting each other. So in tournaments, maybe 4-person VC in rank, they're kind of just playing random fun characters, not really focused on supporting, but they do have VC. But when they have 4-person VC with a team that has very good chemistry together, very good support together, and can struggle. She struggles against good supporting teams, and because the meta right now for survivors in tournaments, they love to play a lot of supporting characters. She can struggle a lot in tournaments. However, she's still not bad in tournaments. She's a good draw hunter. She can secure draws in tournaments, and in rank, she's a good winning hunter. She gets, she's very good for getting 3-person eliminations in rank. It's hard to get 4Ks with her again because she gets cypher rushed, but because she doesn't have much cypher control. But she's not bad in rank. She has very good chase without support. She has very good chase one-on-one. She can catch someone, stun them, get the hit. She has very good camping as well, in that you can throw out the cats and then throw the cross up on the chair. And then the survivor comes in for the save. You hit them. The cats come back and stun the survivor that came in for the chair. Then you hit them again, and you can stuff a rescue that way or double hit a mercenary. So that's pretty strong from Anne as well. She can also stun survivors like that to force them to rescue after half. A lot of Anne's will build to Control Freak, which is one of the builds on the Persona web, bottom right corner of the Hunter Persona web. It makes it so survivors' rocket share time speeds up and they die quicker. So that's very good. If a survivor comes late for a save again, you can use the cats to force a rescue after half to stun the rescuer, or you can just prevent the rescue altogether if they come in really late when the survivor's about to die. You just stun them, prevent the save that way. So her camping is really good. Her chase is really good without support. Her cyber control isn't actually that bad because you can actually cat a survivor and then cancel the cats. And what that does is it prevents the survivor from decoding for a little bit of time that the cats were canceled on. So that can also be kind of effective as well. It's not a great means of cypher control, but it's not bad. Her map pressure is not great, though. That's the biggest issue. She can jump towards the cats, jump towards the cross to kind of speed things up. But in reality, it's not that fast. There's hunters with better cypher control, better map pressure than Anne. So that's what makes her an A- tier hunter. Again, very good chase, very good camp. But she does get in tournaments. She would be A tier, but in tournaments, she gets countered by good supporting teams. And because a lot of teams are very good at supporting each other, with supporting characters in tournament, she's not a very great tournament hunter, but she is a good rank hunter, and that's what makes her A- tier. The next hunter in A- tier is Naiad. Now, Naiad, you guys may not necessarily agree with me. I think some of you will probably be like, why is Naiad higher? Well, unfortunately, guys, Naiad's not a great hunter. In a tournament setting. If you guys watched the IVT tournament, which was the NAEU official tournament, I think we saw almost no Naiad at all. We saw maybe 1 or 2 Naiads here or there, but Naiad is just not a very strong character right now. Again, Naiad can struggle against good supporting teams as well. She kind of forces, essentially what Naiad does is she'll loop a certain area with the water, and she'll force the survivor to leave that watered area and transition into the open, which she can then get a free hit on them. But if there's good supporting characters, they can easily just help them out. The entomologist bees can push the Naiad back. A seer owl can help out. A priestess portal can come in and help support that. So there's just so many kind of outs that survivors had. On top of that, Patient just counters Naiad. Guys, Patient is just such a strong character against Naiad because if Naiad loops a certain area, waters it, forces the Patient to leave the area, he can just hook out of there. If he goes in the open, the Naiad goes after him, just hook away and get to the next kiting area. She loops that, hook away, get to the next kiting area, and there's nothing the Naiad can do, and she'll just get kited for so long by a Patient. So that's why Naiad kind of struggles, because Patient's such a common character, and she also struggles against supporting characters like Priestess or Seer Owls or Entomologist. So she's not a bad character. I think, again, just like Anne, she's a very good rank character. She has pretty good chase, pretty good camp, and pretty good map pressure, can get around the map very quickly. She's just not quite as strong in tournament gameplay, and that's what makes her an A- tier hunter. The next hunter in A- tier is Axeboy, and Axeboy is, again, a lot of you guys are going to be like, oh my god, I love Axeboy, he should be higher. Well, he's not a bad character by any means, guys, and he actually has seen some gameplay in China IVL. I know for those of you who don't know, China IVL is the China Identity 5 League. It's it's the highest level of Identity 5 gameplay essentially in the entire world. And basically what that is with that, there is one hunter on one of the teams that uses Axeboy in the earlier rounds because he's very proficient with that character. You never see him be used by any other hunter for the most part, but specifically just him. But if they find value, if China fans value in Axeboy, then he's not bad. Again, there are better options, but Axeboy is good he's a good tie hunter. In a situation where you need to get a draw, you'll see that one China hunter sometimes use him. He is essentially what Axeboy is he has pretty good chase. If you go for a flame and you hit it, great. You have no attack recovery. You get a free damage on the survivor. If you miss the flame, though, you still get an incredible speed boost, and you can catch up to the survivor and usually get the hit anyways. So as an Axeboy, going for fireball snipes, like, for example, if you have, like, a wall between you and the survivor, you try to snipe them through a wall with a flame, it's probably not the safest flame. You want to be more patient with that, because if you go for that and you miss, then you're just getting kited, because you get the speed boost, but there's a wall there, so you're not really getting the hit. You want to wait to use your flames, especially when you're in a situation where if you miss the flame, you can still get a speed boost, catch up, and hit them, so there's not many obstacles between you and the survivor. Or if they're like running towards a pallet, and you can just pull the flame through the pallet, and then if they go through the pallet, they take the hit. If they go around the pallet, they just take a regular hit. Or if they go or a window, if they don't go through the window, then they take a hit, and if they do vault it, they get flamed. So that's kind of those situations. Also, Axeboy's camp is not bad. So he has pretty good chase. He also has pretty good camp, but the thing is, a lot of good survivors, what they'll do is they'll take down the tree closest to them before they go for saves. So that means they won't get a purple flame. And then you're forced to use the regular flames that are circling the tree that the Axeboy put up near the chair. And those flames are pretty easy to dodge, because they're kind of just like, they move very slow. The purple ones circle you and they keep following you around, whereas those ones are just kind of hanging around doing nothing. And those are very easy to predict, very easy to dodge, so that can make Axeboy's camp not as strong against survivors who know how to rescue against him, know how to take the trees down early before going in for that save. So, and on top of that, Axeboy's map pressure is also not bad. He's very fast once he has that presence. He can use that Restless Road to get those speed boosts and zoom around the map. You can pull the flames to get even more speed boosts. Another thing Axeboys can do is when they down a survivor, they'll use the road to take them to a faraway chair, because they'll get that speed boost with the Restless Road and get all the way to a chair near a survivor cipher machine, so they can chair them on a cipher machine and then continue to pressure that cipher. So that's something that a lot of Axeboys will do. So overall, Axeboy has decent camp, decent chase, and decent cipher control, decent mouse pressure, but it's just kind of decent. He doesn't really excel in any of those three categories, right? The cipher control, map pressure category, the camping category, and the chase category. So that's the biggest problem with Axeboy. He's just kind of decent overall. Not bad, and a very strong rank hunter, but in tournament, he's just kind of not bad. He's not great, but he is decent, and he is somewhat viable, and that's what makes him an A- tier hunter. And a quick sip of water real quick. Okay, so the next tier is A tier. So we're going to do the last two tiers, A and S tier. The first hunter in A tier is, you guys may be surprised by this, but it's actually Geisha. Geisha is a very strong character right now. And the reason why is she's actually a hunter. Again, we look for hunters in tournaments that actually have win potential. That are consistent and have win potential. You talk about like, this hunter's very good at tying, but they're not very good at winning. Well, Geisha's not bad. Geisha's A tier because she actually can win games. She has win potential. She has map pressure. And she's just, especially here at NAEU, a lot of survivors have trouble kiting Geisha. Once you get over to China, then it's a little bit different. The China hunter survivors are very good, especially over in the Asia servers. But here in NAEU, she's a very strong character. And she's also strong in China as well. They do use her later rounds, like round 3. So, she's not bad at all. The reason why is Geisha has strong chase. Her chase is strong. It does kind of rely on how well does the survivor know how to kite the Geisha. It also comes down to a lot of mind games on whether you're camping a pallet. What a lot of survivors will do is they'll get to a pallet, they'll kind of just camp it. And then if the Geisha throws the butterfly and dashes through, they'll go back through to the other side of the pallet. Or if the Geisha swings to the pallet, then they'll just continue to camp it. But if the Geisha is able to mind game, like juke into the pallet, then pull back and swing, get a free hit that way, then that can cost a hit on the survivor. It really just depends. So Geisha's a lot of mind games there, but counter Geisha, you really want to tight kite as much as possible. However, against new Geisha, which is the ones with the butterflies, back with old Geisha, tight kiting was really strong. But with the butterflies, it's a little bit harder to dodge. Survivors, and then Geisha also, got a buff last season where her hitbox is faster. She swings faster. So that's also very strong. So her chase is pretty strong. She doesn't really have much camping. She can kind of jump up and then drop down, go for a no attack recovery hit. But against a good survivor team, that doesn't really work. Good rescuers will pretty much never get baited by that. High level survivors will never have issues with that. But it's not really about her camp. She has really good chase, and she also has good pressure because she can dash around the map very quickly. She gets around the map very, very fast. What a lot of Geishas will do is they'll bring teleport. Well, this is the 2 build. There's the trump card build, which we're going to do a second. There's a non-trump card build. The non-trump card build is that's more of a non-trump card is more of a rank build, and essentially how that works is you will down a survivor, put him on the chair, and then you'll teleport to a cipher, and then try to get hit on survivor, and then just dash back to chair, or you'll jump up in the air, dash to a cipher, and then teleport back to the chair, or something like that, right? And then in tournament, again, in tournament, you have to worry about more consistency rather than, fun excessive plays to try to push for wins, which is the teleport play, which you usually do in rank. In tournaments, you want to play for at least draws, at least consistency. So a lot of Geishas will bring Trump card and Blink just to help them get that early down. Sometimes they can also bring Abnormal. I know Alien likes to do that a little bit, but for the most part, a lot of Geishas will bring Blink. That'll just kind of help them secure the down within 60 seconds. If the survivors are good at cutting Geisha, are able to dodge the dashes and avoid getting hit, then the Geisha can rely on Blink to help secure the down within 60 seconds at the start of the match, because the 60-second cooldown is what it is for Blink, essentially, right? So that's pretty good. So yeah, Geisha overall, guys, is a strong hunter. She has good chase. Her camping isn't really too good, but she does have some camping abilities where she can do the jump up, drop down trick, get no attack recovery. Sometimes that'll work. She can also cut off rescues from a distance and then dash to the chair and try to get hit on them that way and stuff the rescue there. And she also has good map pressure. She gets around the map very quickly because of those dashes. So especially when she has full presence, she dashes really far. If she jumps up and throws the butterfly, she dashes really far. So because of these things, Geisha is a solid A-tier hunter, and we could see her a lot more in upcoming tournaments. The next hunter in A-tier is Soul Weaver. This might be another bit of a surprise to you, but Soul Weaver, guys, has been starting to use a lot over in China tournaments, as well as a little bit here. And the reason why is with the release of Chinatown, Soul Weaver is very strong on Chinatown. There's a lot of narrow alleyways that you can use those spider webs. There's a lot of pallets that you can use the webs on. She's just very strong on Chinatown, very fast, gets around quickly in those kind of narrow areas, and that makes it very hard for survivors to deal with. So yeah, just a very strong hunter overall, especially on Chinatown. She's also good because she has win potential, in that when you get to an endgame situation as Soul Weaver, if you have one survivor eliminated from the game, there's 3 survivors left. If you save up your webs and kind of stack them and don't let them, so if you're chasing the last survivor and the survivor's probably prime, don't immediately hit them. Walk after them for a bit, stack up your webs, then you can hit them. And what happens there is once they pop the cipher, you can drop a whole bunch of spider webs, kill them instantly, put them in a cocoon or put them on chair, and then teleport to the exit gate before they get it open. You can also go for a kind of a web shot play, where you go web shot the survivor once, and then web shot them again, and then you can kind of hit them down, and then they'll go down. There's no attack recovery on the web shots, and then they pop the cipher, you hit them down again, and then you kill them, put them on chair, whatever, cocoon them, teleport to the exit gate, and go for a 3K. So Spider just has that 3K, that 3 kill potential, which is similar to Anne, except that Soul Weaver doesn't. Sure, she can struggle against support characters, but it's harder to support against the Soul Weaver because, for example, something like Forward. It's harder to stun a Soul Weaver because of how fast she is. She goes really fast. Now she's a bigger target. She's wide. She's kind of longer, right? So she's easier to stun in the end when she's not moving. When she's moving at normal speed, but when she's zooming around like that, it's really hard to deal with that as a forward or as any sort of other harassing character. So that's the biggest issue with going against Soul Weaver, and that's why she's kind of A-tier over Anne, and that she really just has that potential that Anne doesn't have. So that's pretty good. She can also just cocoon survivor. If there's a forward harassing, just cocoon the survivor, and there's nothing that they can do. So she has good chase once she has her webs. Oh, she also can't really get rotated, because if she gets rotated in the early game, which means by rotated, that means the survivors kind of keep running around the map to avoid getting found. Once she actually does find a survivor, she has a whole bunch of webs stacked up, and she can just immediately kill them with those webs. So rotating a survivor isn't as strong as other hunters. So Spider's just really strong. She has good chase. She has pretty good camping with the web shot, and not great cipher control, but she does have, again, winning potential, 3K potential, which a lot of hunters don't have. So that's what makes her an A-tier hunter. Okay. The next hunter in A-tier is Bloody Queen. So Bloody Queen, there's really not much to say about BQ, but she's very consistent. She's one of the most consistent hunters in the game for securing draws. If you're in a situation as a hunter where you need a draw, you can pretty much just play Bloody Queen, and the majority of the time you will be getting that draw because of how consistent she is, again, in securing draws. She has some of the best, essentially the best chase in the game, in that it's really hard to avoid mirror images. Only very few characters can do that. Forward, Mercenary, Patient, and then Priestess if they're in a pretty good portal area. Besides that, there's really not a lot of, and then Perfumer's pretty good kiting against her, but there's not a lot of characters besides that are good at kiting a Bloody Queen. Bloody Queen is just so strong with those mirrors, because they just go through walls. They're so hard to avoid. You know, a good Bloody Queen, if there's no seer, no psychologist or anything like that, a good Bloody Queen will be able to get it down in 2 mirrors and just already be in a good spot. And from there, it's still probably going to be a draw, just again, because Bloody Queen is just so slow at getting that mirror recharged. But she has essentially the best chase in the game. She doesn't have any camping, but she does make up for it with that Cypher pressure. She can mirror Cypher machines, forcing the survivors off of those Cypher machines, and that can be very strong because it slows down the Cypher rush. Sometimes you can get a snipe hit on the survivors. And if you're a Bloody Queen, you hit pretty much every mirror. You can kind of just get like a 3K against a good team. In rank, it's easier to get 4Ks because of lack of communication. But against a good survivor team in tournaments, the best you can really get is a 3K if you hit every mirror. If you miss a couple mirrors here and there, you'll probably end up getting a draw. And if you miss like a bunch of mirrors, then you're going to lose the game. But good Bloody Queens rarely miss their mirrors at all. So again, Bloody Queen, very strong because she has good map pressure, very good chase, some of the best chase in the game. Not great camp, but does have incredible, again, map pressure and Cypher control. So Bloody Queen is arguably the most consistent hunter in the game for securing draws, which is very important if you're in a tournament setting where you just need a draw. Then go for that Bloody Queen, go for that draw, and put yourself in a good spot as a hunter. So because of these things, Bloody Queen is A tier, good rank hunter, very good tournament hunter, again, very consistent. And yeah, Bloody Queen, A tier. The next hunter in A tier and the final hunter in A tier is Bonbon. Now, Bonbon is always kind of been around A tier. I don't think he might have been an S tier at one point, but the biggest problem with Bonbon, he's very similar to Bloody Queen in that it's very hard to win with him. He's very good, very consistent at securing draws. Not quite as consistent as Bloody Queen, but he also he's also just like stronger on certain maps than Bloody Queen is not on, and that's kind of why he's a little bit higher up here. It's kind of debatable who's better, Bonbon or Bloody Queen, but at least with Bonbon, it's like Bloody Queen struggles on kind of 2-story maps, like, you know, Ever Sleeping Town, Sacred Heart Hospital, whereas Bonbon is better on those maps than she is in a way, right? So he doesn't have much issue with 2 stories as much as Bloody Queen does, again, mirroring, and then the survivors go up to a 2-story building. That can kind of be the way to kite out a mirror image, whereas the Bonbon will still just run after the survivor and bomb them, right? So that's the thing with Bonbon, is he has very good chase. If you're very good at aiming those chain bombs, you can get them down pretty quickly as Bonbon. If you bring Blink, all you have to do is bomb a survivor twice, hit 2 bombs, and then go for a Blink to get the down. And this is where Bonbon shines. He has the best camp in the game. Bonbon has the best camp in the game. It's very hard to rescue off of him because you have those bombs, which are just very hard to avoid, and it's just incredibly strong camping. So basically, what happens with Bonbon is why he's very good for securing draws is because he has good chase, so he's able to get a survivor down in a pretty reasonable amount of time in the early game. And then the survivors will just not rescue because of how good his camping is. They don't want to take the risk. Because if you go for a save against a Bonbon and you get stuffed, that's how you lose the game. That's how it kind of goes even more into the Bonbon's favor and you lose. So what happens is you'll get the down as the Bonbon, and then the survivors will just not risk the rescue because of how strong his camp is. And then Bonbon will just kill one more survivor later in the game, secure the draw, and that's a draw. So he's a good, consistent draw hunter for that reason. Now, Bonbon does have a little bit of win potential just if the survivors do opt to rescue. But again, if you're in a situation as a survivors where if you have to go for a win, then maybe you got to push for a save. But in reality, you don't really want to. You just kind of want to go for draws. So yeah, Bonbon is very consistent at securing draws, very good chase, the best camp in the game. Not a lot of Cypher pressure, that's the biggest issue with him, not a lot of map pressure. He can throw bombs at Cypher machines, he can throw that control bomb on a Cypher and just leave it there, and the survivors go back to decoding it, he can detonate it, get a free chip hit, and if they don't want to risk it, then they'll just leave, and that slows down the Cypher rush, so that's not bad at all. But yeah, overall, Bonbon is solid A-tier hunter, very consistent, very good at securing draws, and just a very good hunter overall. Okay, moving on to the last tier, which is S tier. 3 hunters left. And unfortunately, guys, it is going to be the same S tier that we are accustomed to, but we will go over it anyway. And the first hunter in S tier is Dream Witch. Now, Dream Witch is kind of what you'll see with a lot of teams, at least in NAAU, is for hunters that play all 3 S tier hunters, you'll see round 1 Sculptor, round 2 Breaking Wheel, round 3 Dream Witch. Now, Dream Witch does get utilized a little bit differently over in China. Some teams, depending on the map, will go round 1 Dream Witch or round 2 Dream Witch. But the biggest issue with Dream Witch, and why she's still S tier, she's still very strong, she's just not quite as strong as the other two, and she really struggles against Psychologist. Psychologist, again, forces 3 hits from a Dream Witch. A lot of Dream Witches in the early game like to simply just get 2 hits. They'll go for a trap on survivors for 1 hit, then patroller them for the kill, or they'll just double patroller, get it down, get it down that way. So a lot of Dream Witches like to play Dream Witch kind of like round 2, round 3. And the reason why is, for example, round 2 Arms Factory, the Dream Witches will ban Seer and Psychologist. The Seer Owl, again, forces the 3 hits. Dream Witch only wants to get 2. That's kind of their goal. Get 2 hits, get a quick down that way, and go for a win from there with their incredible Cypher pressure. But if you're going for 3 hits, then you're going to get kited, and it really falls into the survivor's favor at that point. So, round 1 Dream Witch is risky, but some China players will do it because they feel it's the best way to secure draws. Here in NAEU, I encourage a lot of you guys to, if you guys are tournament hunters or trying to play in tournaments, Dream Witch is a lot stronger when you can ban at least 2 survivors. The 3 hardest counters to Dream Witch are Priestess on good Priestess maps like Ever Sleeping Town. But it has to be kind of a good Priestess, not for Priestess to be kind of effective, but she is good against her nonetheless. Seer is very strong, Psychologist is very strong because they force the 3 hits that Dream Witch really doesn't want to have to go for. They only want to get 2. So essentially the game plan with Dream Witch is to get it down with double patroller on a survivor, and then use your incredible map pressure by leeching people, using those leeches to push survivors off of Cypher machines and slow down the Cypher rush that way. You can camp with your main spawn, use the leech of the survivor on chair to go after another Cypher, force the survivors off of the Cypher machines, and slow it down that way. Now a good survivor team will communicate for the survivors to kind of die in the corner of the map so the leech won't be able to pressure the Cypher machines away. If you don't die middle and you die away from them, then that can be very strong. Now, one situation that can be very good for Dream Witch is if you get to an endgame scenario and the survivors have 3 Cypher machines, what we call a 3 Cypher situation, where there's 3 Cypher machines all kind of near each other, then Dream Witch can pressure all 3 of them and never really allow the survivors to finish, and that can be a problem. But yeah, as long as the survivors communicate where the Cyphers are, they can spread them out and kind of prevent the Dream Witch from actually, getting being able to pressure all of them in the end game. So Dream Witch does have very good, winning potential. She has good drawing potential as well, just because if you have 4 survivors up in the exit gate and one of the survivors has a leech, if you, for example, use Blink with the main spawn on one of the survivors to down them, and then you use the leech of another survivor to blink them and down them, then you can get 2 survivors down in the end game and still kind of secure a draw. So Dream Witch's map pressure in the end game is also very strong. She can kind of get 1 extra kill sometimes that other hunters really can't do. So that's what makes her also very strong. So because of these things, Dream Witch is S tier. She has win potential. She's very strong in tournaments. She's very strong in rank as well because you just ban Seer and Psychologist or Priestess depending on what map it is. And that's what makes Dream Witch an S tier hunter. The next hunter in S tier is Breaking Wheel Pollen. Now Breaking Wheel, as you guys know, takes kind of it's a difficult hunter to master. Not really hard to, it actually is kind of hard to learn because you have to have good game sense with him, but he's a difficult hunter to master because he requires a lot of very strong controls. Once you get Breaking Wheel down though, with the controls and the game sense, he's very good. The reason why is he's basically the only hunter that can one-shot survivors, besides like Photographer, but he does this way more efficiently than Photo does. What you do as a Breaking Wheel essentially is you roll up to the survivor, just roll over them twice, get 2 spikes in them, trap them, blink them, get the down, whatever it may be. And he's also just good against Psychologists. Right, you look at Psychologists, you're like, oh my god, this character's so good. She can take 3 hits. Well, no, Breaking Wheel still kills her in 1 shot. So she's just not quite as good there. So yeah, because of that, Breaking Wheel is very strong. He has good chase. Now he does kind of get looped around. We have to be careful as a Breaking Wheel. If you're gonna get caught in like a shack area with a strong window, if you can get out of your wheel from vault to put up confined space for the survivor to leave and then wheel over them. But if you don't have confined space and you're using the left-to-right build, which is Trump Card and Insolence, which is the most common build, You kind of are forced to sometimes leave them or try to go for mind games, which can be difficult. One thing you can do as wheel is if you're in a bit of a tough area, you can get one spike on them, you can get out of your wheel form, go for a hit on them that way, put them at a quarter health, and then go back into wheel form and try to get another spike. And at that point, since you have insolence, you have your extended spikes, which you can use to reach out, clip the survivor that way, and then just snap them for the down. And that can be an efficient way of getting a down on a survivor as Breaking Wheels. So Breaking Wheels Chase is very good if used properly. He has good camping, especially once he's reached full presence, because you can, essentially roll over a survivor, get out of wheel form, get the second spike, and just stuff them that way. If you get cut off from a distance and they have full presence, you're dead. You're not making that save. Another thing Breaking Wheel can do is if you get a spike on a survivor and they come in late for the rescue, you can put a trap on the left side of the chair. Because remember, guys, when you rescue as a survivor, the rescue animation is on the left side of the chair. If from the rescuer's perspective, looking at the chair, and from the hunter's perspective, looking at the chair. So you can put the trap on that left side there, and then it'll trap the survivor if they have a spike. And then it can sometimes force the rescue after half, kind of like the Anne cats, Anne using her cats and stuff. So that's pretty good. On top of that, Breaking Wheel also has incredible map pressure. All he has to do, every 7 seconds, he can literally get into wheel form and then just zoom anywhere he wants on the map within seconds. It is the most insane map pressure we've seen throughout this entire game from pretty much any hunter. So not only does Breaking Wheel have strong chase, strong camping once he has full presence, and incredible map pressure, he is just that. I mean, all those things together just make him incredibly strong. An S tier hunter, definitely. Now, the only issue is he does struggle a little bit against forward. He's very vulnerable to stunning characters. Also, entomologist and batter, he's vulnerable to the support characters. So we talk about this being a support meta. A lot of the teams like to use support characters, and that's why he's not the best hunter in the game, because he does struggle against support, and this is support heavy. But because his Cypher pressure is so incredibly strong, his chase is so incredibly strong, and his camping is also very strong. Even with the meta being support characters and he struggles against support, he is still very strong, and that makes him S tier and the second best hunter in the game. Okay, moving on to the last hunter in S tier and the best hunter in the game. Yes, it is still Sculptor. Sculptor is just incredibly powerful. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we talked about her so much, but Sculptor is just so hard to deal with, and unless she gets nerfed or some other hunter gets buffed incredibly or some new hunter comes out that's really good, Sculptor is going to be the best hunter in the game. She's just so good. Those statues on narrow alleyways, on narrow areas on maps, you just put the statues in pallets, the statues in windows. You get those chip hits. It's hard to dodge Sculptor statues, but it is doable. But if you're doing that, you're probably just going to give up a free basic hit. And Sculptor's really good. You want to transition Kite in the open to avoid statues, but Sculptor will essentially put the horizontal statues to kind of block off the area you're running, force them the survivor to double back into you, and you just get a free hit that way. And if you run through the statue, you take the hit of the statue, and you're probably still going to get hit anyways, because Sculptor has a good hitbox. So Sculptor's chase is just very strong with those statues. She has very good camping as well. Unlike Bonbon bombs do not cancel rescue animation. Sculptor statues, if you hit them on the survivor, they cancel the rescue animation, which means that if you go for that save, you can sometimes force it after half, or they go for the save, they try to go, you cancel it with the statue, they go for it again, they cancel with the statue, and that's already 2 statue hits, then you hit them down, stuff to save. Essentially, as a Sculptor, guys, what you're going to do is you're going to put your statues on the left, bouncing off the left side of the chair. You just put vertical and horizontals over and over on that left side, bouncing off the chair, and you can chip the survivor if they go for the save that way. So that's just the thing with Sculptor, is she has very good chase, very good camping, especially once she reaches that full presence, she's even stronger because she has those target statues. When you combine the vertical and horizontal statue, it'll dart after the closest survivor. And that's very strong for chasing and very strong for camping. So Sculptor, once she reaches the full, a lot of Sculptors have started to bring insolence, whether that's teleport and then you have detention and insolence, or that's left to right. You have you bring blink, trump card, and then you have insolence as well, so you reach that full presence quicker. That's just so strong. On top of all of that, Sculptor also has map pressure and cipher control, because once she has that first presence, she throws the chisel at the cipher machines, and it forces the survivors off of the cipher. If she has full presence, she can chip survivors as well a lot easier than without full presence. And you can actually down a survivor. For example, think about it this way. A mercenary comes in for a rescue, right? You get 1 chip hit on them and then 1 basic hit, and they get the save off. Okay, great save for the mercenary. Well, later in the game, if you have your chisel in full presence, and for example, if you bring wanted order, you get wanted order on the mercenary or something like that. You spike them, and then you just use the full presence with the spike, and you down them from across the map, and then they can't decode. They're down on the ground. The Cypher Rush is lacking, and it's all of a sudden right back into the hunter's favor. And it's just incredibly strong. Sculptor has, we talk about the 3 things that make him a strong hunter: chase, camping, and cypher control, map pressure. Sculptor has all 3 of them and is strong in all 3 of them. And that is what makes her S tier. That is what makes her the best hunter in the game, the most banned hunter in rank, in I think pretty much all servers. She is just the best hunter in the game. She'll continue to be the most commonly used round 1 hunter here in NAAU, in China, and in any server in Asia until she gets nerfed, until another hunter surpasses her. She is the best hunter in the game. She is S tier, and that is Sculptor. Okay, at long last, guys, that is it for the tier list. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. You guys are absolutely awesome. If you guys don't forget, I will put the timestamps in the video description. A lot of you guys have been asking for timestamps, and I would like to remind you guys, I put the timestamps in every single description of every one of my tier lists since I've been making tier lists. I think possibly maybe it's usually at the bottom of the description, so maybe it should be that some of you guys don't see it or haven't checked all the way to the bottom. But I promise you guys, I always put timestamps in every the description of every tier list video, so don't forget to check down there. If you guys did like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you all in the next one.